going on dates, feeling really loved, feeling really good about myself. Then all of a sudden it took such a quick turn, and then
oh my gosh.
Ever felt misunderstood, misjudged? Like the version of you people see isn't even close to who you are? This episode uncovers that. Through raw, honest dialogue, you'll witness how identity gets built and broken by perception.
your happiness is not worth a little high school crush.
You'll walk away questioning your own filters, your own projections, and maybe how well you know yourself.
If you know yourself, if you love yourself, and if you're confident with who you are, the other person is only going to complement your strengths and they're going to grow from your differences.
It's not just real talk, it's a mirror.
Hi, Chanel. Welcome to the Jason Magar podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep, so my name's Chanel. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I'm here visiting the wonderful Magars.
Thank you. I'm glad you came on. You and I were having a conversation about why you didn't want to get married. Could you tell us what you told me?
Yep, so obviously internationally, I'm not sure how boy standards are compared to Sydney, Australia, but my main reason is that men, as a 21-year-old female, looking at men in this generation, they are so immature, and you sort of look at the way they act on a day-to-day basis and you think to yourself, how are they going to uphold any family values? How are they going to respect you as a wife? So for example, you get a lot of like catcalling in Sydney, Australia. It's a norm, and girls these days just think, oh yeah, a guy's catcalling me. Like, it's such a normality in Australia that people look at, like, I know young females look at that as in, oh, he's calling me pretty, or he thinks I'm like good looking. But I feel like as a matured 21-year-old female, you need to look at that as not being a norm of today's society, and comparing that to, is that the type of man I want to raise a family? Is that the type of man I want to show my future kids that that's how we treat women, that's how we treat young women? And it will be catcalling from like ages 16 on to about 30 years old. Even you get 40-year-old men, you're walking down to the grocery store and you'll be walking across the lights and they'll be there sitting in their cars catcalling you and beeping you.
You're just going to get groceries.
You literally, I'll be crossing the road, even with my brother and my dad in the car, and they will beep and catcall you.
Didn't you go to the store in your pajamas and they were catcalling?
Yes. So one story, I went to Coles, which is like a grocery store for us, purely just groceries, vegetables, anything you need. I went in my gownie, like a robe, pajamas, fresh out of bed. Mum needed milk and bread before my brothers went to school. So I ducked up. It's about 5 minutes from my house. And I got out in the car park, parked the car, and I noticed there was a group of guys, like young, I would say 18 years old, because they're on our P plates. So they're not illegal to drive in Australia. So you can sort of gauge an age group with P plates. So they were about 18 years old. And I saw them, they started following out after me up into Coles, and I'm walking through the aisle trying to grab some bread and milk. And then I can see them every aisle I'm going into. I can see them. They're like following me in every aisle I go into. And then eventually they approach me. They are trying to ask me all questions. They're trying to pay for my groceries. They're trying to say I'm good looking. What's your number? And it's just like, it's probably 8 a.m. in the morning. And people see that and think it's normal. Like, these boys are just interested in her. They think she's good looking. Like you should give them your number.
Is this like almost like, is this just often? Because like you hear about these things happening here, but not in this sense. Like, are you speaking like it happens like all the time?
Like daily basis.
It's so normal over there.
It's so normal.
Like, I should be shocked when you're telling me this, right?
Yeah. Like,
because I am, but I'm like, wait, is it like actually that often over there?
It is so often. And I think it's gotten to the point where young girls think it's normal. And so no one stands up for like this behavior that the boys are doing and the way that they're treating women. So it's just this like normal standardized thing that if a guy catcalls you, it's basically a compliment.
Why do you see it differently versus your friends?
I see it differently because like for my friends, they're very into getting men's attention. I feel the need that you don't need a man to validate you. You should be able to stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm a good looking girl. You do not need a man to catcall you outside like the car window when you're walking to a grocery store for you to feel empowered as a woman. And especially younger boys, like they're so immature. And for my friends to think that that's a compliment, it's really like it blows my mind.
Have you ever given a guy your number who was catcalling you?
No. What I would do is I'll give my dad's phone number. So if they do call, my dad's answering. So, and there's been so many multiple times where they will like follow you home, and I've had to call up my brother, I've had to call up my dad, and I've had to be like, this is the number plate just in case they're following me home because they were catcalling me. And what happens in Australia, because it is a normal thing, if you do not answer or give them attention to the catcalling, for example, they'll pull up next to you and they'll beg and like make all this noise for you to roll down your window. If you do not roll down your window, they'll follow you until they get a response or a reaction out of you. Yeah.
How does it make you feel that they do that to you?
It's scary because it's like, it's not normal. I shouldn't need to feel scared or like feel that I need to bring a boy with me everywhere, or my brother or my dad, to go to Coles to get bread and milk. And I feel like younger men should be educated that it's not a normal thing to do, and it's actually very disrespectful, and no, girls will not find you big and tough to be able to just catcall women. So
how would you like a man to approach you?
I think just any sort of respectful, like, hi, how are you? My name's this, like any just sort of like general introduction, first of all, not whistling or not screaming out, you're hot and I want to blah, 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 like vulgar comments, driving by. I think just a respectful introduction of, hi, how are you? Or my name's this. It just shows a different approach rather than getting catcalled.
And we've had some conversations, and I know that men treat it that it's their privilege that you're with them. In your view, what should be the way that a relationship's viewed?
I would say that, so we had a conversation before about punching, the word punching as well. So in Australia, there is a podcast going around with two, I would say, young men, and basically couples send in photos of each other and the two men judge who's punching. So punching would be, for example, who's better looking and who's got more of a privilege being with who. And it's hit the roof. Like, it is so common. Every single couple I know is sending through photos, and they will sit there rating each photo and they'll say, he's punching, he's punching, he's punching.
And by punching, you mean punching it means, out of your weight class.
Yeah. So like they're out of their league. And it's just majority of, obviously, of the photos are the girls are punching. So obviously the man is the better person in the relationship. And I feel like it's really, I don't know, it's just not called for. And it's just, it puts the women in such a vulnerable position for them to then overthink about their own like self-worth. And I don't think that women should be sitting there getting told that the men that they're dating is out of their league. Like, there shouldn't even be a league to start off with. If you both have the same morals, if you both have the same like relationship sort of goals, and you both work together, communicate well, then no one should be out of each other's league. You should both be grateful that you're committed to the same thing and the same relationship. So
I think punching is always, a lot of people here will say, I married up. And we talked about that. But when you get married, it should be your equal. And equal in every way. It's not And looks, if you find the person attractive and you are attracted to them, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about the way that the couple looks together. It's if you are both attracted to each other in a way that keeps you drawn together so that your relationship can grow and flourish. I know that in the past you had a relationship that was unhealthy. And I know there was some thought patterns that you had. Talk to me about that.
So my first relationship was like a high school sort of sweetheart type of vibe. So probably from like year 11 to first year of uni. So probably like 17 to about 19 years old. We had like a sister brother school. So it's sort of like if you go to an all girls school and you go to an all boys school, there will sort of be some sort of schools that like connect and do like certain activities to just like interact the girls and boys together. So he went to the brother school, which is right next door to my school. So we obviously connected through like the activities and the bonding and stuff. Obviously, yes, very young, didn't know what I was going into. It was my first relationship. It started off in like the honeymoon phase, as everyone calls it, going on dates, feeling really loved, feeling really good about myself. Then all of a sudden it took such a quick turn, and then I'm all for like 50-50 payment firsthand. If a guy's going to take me out, I'm more than happy to pay for myself. I don't need a man to need to pay for me. I'm my own independent woman. I work, I can pay for myself. But it got to a point where every single week I was paying for everything. I was transferring him money for his haircut. If I didn't transfer him money, he wouldn't talk to me for the week. So that was like the first thing I noticed. Yeah, crazy.
How did that make you feel when he would like request to pay for is it half a haircut or the whole thing?
No, the whole thing. I was paying for everything.
So it just went from 50 to like where he was like, hey, can you start paying for everything? Yeah. It's what it turned into. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't really see it at the start because like I said, I'm fine paying for stuff. If we went out on a date, like I'm fine to shout a date. It's really like I'm with that person. I love that person. I'm more than happy to put my hard-earned money towards that person. But it's like it sort of started getting a bit weird when he would organize dates, like for my birthday even. He would make this massive thing about taking me out for my birthday. And then once we were finished eating, the bill came and I'm expecting like him to get it. Like, come on, it's my birthday, you know? And then he like was like, oh yeah, like pull out your card. And I'm just like, oh, like, okay. So once like my birthday passed and then it was like a repetitive thing, I was like, oh, like I just didn't have the heart to be like, no, you need to start paying because everyone's got their own financial situations. And yeah, he wasn't paying for anything. I know he wasn't helping at home with money. Like he wasn't doing anything with his money and he started slacking off at work. So I was like basically the only income that we had. So yeah, we're still paying for that. And then it got to a point as well where he was very like manipulative. So for example, as well, there was one time he was making me jump on a scale and weigh. Like he was very hard about my weight. It's very, very, very. And I lost a lot of weight. Like I dropped down to about 40 kilos. I don't know the American that.
About 100 pounds.
Yeah. Dropped down heaps of weight. Was not feeling any confidence about myself. I felt like the ugliest person. He made me lose all this weight for me then to find out that he had been cheating on me the whole 3 years. I stayed with him as well after I found out. So I remember this one time on my birthday as well, after the dinner, which I paid for, he came back to my house. We had like the big family cake and took all photos and blah, blah, blah. And then he left because he wasn't feeling well. And I was like, okay, like we've spent the night together. It's all good. You can go home. Then a few weeks later, my friend messaged me and on Snapchat, you have like a little location and his location was like with a girl at a girl's house. And I'm just like, what's going on? And then I sort of got fed all the information that he stayed at the girl's house and like slept with her on my birthday after I paid and took myself out basically for dinner. And I brought it up to him and then he just like made it as if it was my fault. he just gaslighted me into a way that it's like, oh, I don't have what these girls have, so that's why I'm going to go sleep with them, but I still love you for you. But you don't have what they have. So I'm just going to go spend some time with them, but I'll be back with you. And it's silly me. I stayed with him for 3 years and I dealt with that constantly. And it got to a point as well, we hit first year of uni. He went to a college. It's different to like the colleges here. So you have to pay for upfront fees, whereas university, you have like a program to help you pay off your like loan for schooling. And he was doing PE teaching, so like physical education, and I was doing nursing. I went into my nursing course stereotypically thinking that it was for dumb blondes, right? Like it will be so easy. All the pretty girls do it. You know, I'm going to like smash the 3 years. Went in, content was so heavy. I cried on my first class because of like the biology and the human anatomy. I was like, I can't do this. So I've got my first year uni subjects, and then he would obviously have his work to do, and I was happy proofreading his work for him. He would send me his assignments. It got to a point where I was opening up my Gmail account to like his shared document, and I would jump on and the page was like empty. And I would FaceTime him and I'm like, his assignment was basically due that night. And I would FaceTime him and I was like, where's your work? And he's like, oh, like, you know, I thought we could do it together. And then I would end up writing all of his assignments on top of my nursing assignments, which was heavy work for me coming out of school. Like it's heavy, heavy work. And then it got to a point where I was so done with how tired I was because he was sending it to me the night before, like 1,000-word essays for me to write. And I just sat there one night and I was like, look, I can't do this. I said, I've got my own degree to worry about. I said, I'm more than happy to proofread and edit your work, but I just can't take that load on for you. And then he hit me with the, oh, well, I'm just going to drop out then. Like, I'm not doing this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I ended up basically doing a year's work of uni for him.
So I know this is all new to you and you haven't heard it. So what are you thinking, Cam?
Dude, my hands are sweating. Like, oh my gosh. There's a lot of thoughts there. How long ago did you guys split up? Wait, tell me you split up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just to make sure.
Yeah. No, I split up probably when I think I was maybe
19, you said?
Yeah, or just before like 18 and a bit.
So you're like 2.5 years out from that?
Yeah.
Do you see that as like the past and you understand what happened and you've completely turned that chapter? Or do you feel like those things that you went through and those situations you were in and those feelings he made you feel still come up relatively often? Like, before I speak, I'm kind of curious where you're coming from so I can maintain, being sensitive to it.
So I'm so like past that situation. I don't care about him, have no thought towards himself. But obviously with the whole like cheating scandal, I do find it a lot harder to like put my trust into guys that I'm talking to now, because it's just like every little red flag that I didn't see back then and I see now in a guy, I sort of reflect to, oh, it's just going to be the same thing. Like I didn't pick it up then, but I can pick it up a lot more now, having like done that for 3 years. But like sensitive wise, no feelings for him, absolutely like despise of him, don't care what he's doing. But yeah, definitely like the whole situation when it comes to like trusting a guy now, and just like a lot of like self-confidence was like broken, obviously, which thankfully like I've got family and support around me, so I was able to put more weight on, love myself again. So yeah, we're at a good point now.
That is so many questions in my head. You guys just hit me with like a left hook.
I know, that's why I didn't tell you ahead of time, because I just wanted you to come in fresh, get your perspective from all the conversations we've had. And Obviously, Chanel got some talking to by me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you guys talked a lot about and went pretty deep on some of these areas? I'm assuming.
Feel free to expand upon what you know of
Okay,
relationship and life now.
One thing I do want to know, I feel like for me to get a full picture, selfishly, is like not speaking about this guy specifically, but in general, like what are some things that he did that you enjoyed, loved, or just appreciated, so I can get an idea of what you pick up on and what like you really care for.
Well, he was like of a Greek background, which is what I am. So we sort of shared a lot of like cultural, I would say like, what would you call it? Cultural like celebrations.
Commonalities.
Yeah.
Similarities.
Yeah. So like, and coming from like the Greek culture, obviously you're very family orientated. So he was so caring for his siblings, like his younger siblings, cared for his mum, cared for his dad, grandparents. He lived with his grandma. Like he was so heart drawn to his family, which is what drew me in as well. Because unfortunately nowadays, a lot of kids' parents aren't together and you see the broken homes. And obviously I am such a family orientated person. Like my siblings mean everything to me. And when I don't see that with other people, I feel like I can't really connect with them as much as what I can with people who come from like family orientated homes. So that was definitely a big factor, which what I like loved being with him, like the family barbecues every weekend. It was a really nice experience. And I think overall just like he was very athletic as well, being able to go to like soccer games and watching him and like supporting him. It was a really nice feeling, like him knowing that I was there. I would always come early and like help him train, and just like that supportive factor we did have with each other at the start. Like we were very supportive of each other. I was doing dance, so both sort of got similar athletic type of like activities going on. So we were both able to support each other with like what we loved. He loved soccer, I loved dance. He would come to my dance stuff, I would go to his soccer stuff. So that similarity also like really drew us in together. But yeah, it was probably just those two main things that is hard to find with people as well.
All right, cool. So he was a family person, family oriented. I heard that you love supporting him and he supported you. And it sounded like he was just an overall like fun person, easy person to be around, lighthearted. Jason, walk me through or take me where you had in mind, because you blindsided me with this and gave me no context. Like, give us a goal so I don't start taking us down like a random alley.
I care about Chanel, her family, and as you know, pretty much anyone that I get a chance to let people be loved, be known, and be cared for the way that they're supposed to be. And in your relationship with him, at what point did you turn and just notice that it went from a relationship of enjoyment, and I know it was the pain, but where in there did you start to feel bad about yourself during this relationship?
I'd probably say maybe like a year into it, because obviously honeymoon phase probably lasted about 3 to 4 months, and then it just like hit a really big turn straight away. And obviously we were coming into like year 12, so I was trying to focus on schooling, HSC, which is like a really big thing in Australia to obviously get into your uni course. And then that's sort of when I was like, okay, I feel bad. Like, I don't know if I want to be in this relationship or not, because, you know, he does care for me. We do support each other, but then he's doing everything wrong by me that he can. And I was sort of stuck between, I don't want to let him go, but then I'm going to let myself go in the process of staying with him. Yeah.
What would you say to a girl who's in a relationship like that? If you could go back and talk to yourself at that point where you realize that, what would you say to them right now?
Look, I would just sit there and just say to them that your happiness is not worth a little high school crush. You know, I was about to finish school and I'm turning 18 years old, which is a big milestone in Australia, because that's when like you get your license, you can have alcohol, you can go out and like enjoy your freedom. I would definitely sit there and say, yeah, don't ever let a guy close you down. Don't ever let a guy cloud your happiness and your future. Like, you are at such a prime age at that point. You should be thinking about you and yourself only, and your career and your family as well. Like, family comes first and you come first. And just don't let a guy walk all over you at that point.
What would you say to a girl whose boyfriend's telling them that you need to jump on a scale?
Would definitely say that he's got something wrong with him. You know, that's not a good thing whatsoever, that he's so like mentally damaging to a young girl, especially an 18-year-old. You know, you've already got social media that put out all these like body image, body dysmorphia, everything about being pretty and about beauty. So you've already got that factor. And then for someone who is supposed to love you for who you are, making you jump on a scale, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that no women or young girl should ever listen or stoop themselves that low to listen to someone making them do that. It is not the person for you if that guy is doing that. They do not deserve your self-worth, your self-confidence, or your love whatsoever.
We had a little conversation about words that we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
What did you take away from that, and what are you going to change in the way you talk to yourself?
I definitely took away the fact that you were saying if we keep saying something negative to ourselves, that's what our mind is obviously going to just keep repeating, and we're going to keep hearing that. For example, I saw a photo and I didn't like the angle of my nose, and Jason kept hearing me yapping about my nose looks so bad. And then he sat me down.
Did you say it lighthearted in the moment too?
No, I think I was pretty stern. Yeah.
She was stern on her nose.
I was pretty stern on my nose. I'm like, oh, that's so ugly. Like my nose. I just kept saying my nose, my nose, my nose. And Jason sat me down and he said, you know, if you keep training your mind to go to your nose, he said, like, that negativity is just going to stay there, and every little thought is just going to nitpick at my nose. Every photo I see, I'm just going to zoom right into my nose, which is true. And I honestly took that conversation so heartfelt, because no one should be sitting there looking at the negative. Everyone should be sitting there thinking so positively about themselves. I should be zooming in and saying, oh my gosh, like, look, I'm in America. I'm at a basketball game. I'm at a baseball game. Like, never to be seen in Australia. You don't get the NBA in Australia. Instead of zooming in on my nose and saying, I hate my nose. And I think that also comes down to social media plays such a big role with that as well, with young girls these days. And the beauty standards is just so crazy that everyone is so drawn towards beauty and how everyone else looks, rather than like living in the moment and actually just experiencing your life and enjoying your life. Everyone just tips towards beauty standards. And I think if you do train your mind that way, everything's just going to go downhill and you're not going to be able to pick yourself up. You're going to completely break your self-confidence and you're just going to shut that like capability down. So, yeah.
Has Jason started talking to you about the way you attract like someone into your life that will treat you in the ways that you deserve?
I think we've had a little conversation, about that. And I think that sort of reflects on like, if I'm nitpicking negative thoughts about that, I'm going to settle to a guy that treats me negatively, because if I'm in my own mind talking about how negative I am about myself, it's going to be okay for me to think that a negative guy is treating me good, because that's what I've trained my mind to think. Yeah.
Good. You've been listening. I like it.
Yeah, it's like, I'd be curious to hear you expand on that, because so much of, like, as a guy, and I know Jason would agree, like, if you see like the girl in the room or a guy in the room that's just always just saying the negative things, like you just feel like your energy is just plummeting. But then when there's someone that's super proud of what they do in a humble way and they have nothing but positive things to say, they're not focused on themselves, but enough to like make the right impressions. It's just like, I feel like that those are the micro things that make up someone that like glows in the room. And so I was curious if you guys had talked about that, because that's like the self-awareness thing, and that's one of the most important things that I feel like on the other side, like I had like, from a super young age, like a mom and a dad who reinstated that. So I don't even know how to think almost negatively. Like I've had my own areas of life that I've ventured into and gotten super uncomfortable, and I just have these negative train of thoughts, and I'll have people come grab me and pull me out and be like, dude, why are you saying that? So it's not like don't read that as like that's every facet of my life, but I've learned from those areas and all that stuff. And I wanted to make sure you guys had talked about that because like everything starts from the way you view yourself and the self-belief and the way you talk about yourself. Do you feel like you're on a journey where you've exponentially had a lot of growth with your self-talk? Or is this like really recent, like since you got like on this trip or something?
I think it's probably recent. Like, yes, I thought definitely, obviously from like past relationship that I had some self-growth. But I think like being able to sit down with Jason and just listen to how he sees and views like negative thinking and stuff has really shifted. Even today, Angel, his wife, was showing us some photos from the trip because we shared an album so we could like airdrop all the photos. And she was zooming in and she was like, Chanel, do you like this picture? And I'm like, you know what? Like, yeah, I do. Yeah, it may not be the best picture, but I'm okay with it. Like, it's a beautiful picture. So I think being able to sit down with the right people and to listen to such like positive feedback and like, yeah, it just honestly helps with self-growth. Yeah.
Yeah. And I told you in one of our conversations that confidence is absolutely the most attractive feature in people in general. And I think women have been told not to be overconfident, not to be submissive, to be this quiet. And I think if I could encourage every woman in this world to be the best version of yourself, of course we all have things that we can work on. That's not negative, that's self-realization, and there's nothing wrong with self-realization. Hey, I don't do this really well, but I can work on it. But being comfortable with everything that you are and being the best version of everything that you have and giving the world what we're designed and made with. And if you believe in a creator, we were created with what we see as our faults. Those are actually our gifts that allow us to be able to fulfill the purpose we were made for. So if I can always encourage you to just talk to yourself in a way that shapes you into a positive direction that says, hey, yeah, that wasn't perfect, but you know what? It was good for the moment, and enjoy that moment over that one little, oh, I don't like the shadow. I don't like, I was just listening to it and I'm like, we got to have a conversation. Because I want everyone that I meet to have happiness, have joy, and have a lasting relationship that gives them fulfillment. I know you want marriage, but you don't want marriage where you are settling, where you're having somebody who's tearing you down, who doesn't breathe life into you. And that's not a relationship that anyone should be in. If you're ever in a future relationship, not just you, but anyone, and you're getting those red flags, stop and take the evaluation. Bring people in who love you and listen to them. Most of the people don't want to hear their family say, you know what, I think that person's bad news. Listen to them. People who love you are going to tell you, hey, that's not a good thing. If you are in a relationship and it is destroying you personally, it's tearing you down emotionally, it's making you feel not good about yourself, is that person the authority in this world that tells you what standard you should live to? No. If you are in relationship with God, God's the only one you got to please. And any human being is going to point out what they see as their flaws, but they're not the authority on life. And we often give our partners the position that they don't deserve to say, you should do this, you should be this, you should. Who are you to tell me what I should be? If you know yourself, if you love yourself, and if you're confident with who you are, the other person is only going to complement your strengths and they're going to grow from your differences. So be that difference that allows your partner to be shaped into something new. And you have a lot of awesome qualities, or I wouldn't waste my time pouring into you. And I want you to just bring a great message to Australia and just tell everyone, it is me. I'm in this relationship. If you're with me, it's because I choose to be with you. It's not because I'm privileged that you chose me. And you and I had that conversation, and I said, who would be the lucky one?
I just wanted to take a quick break from the episode. Hope you're enjoying it. I would love to help revolutionize your relationship. I will be releasing The Business of Relationships, and you can get your copy on pre-order. If you want to click below, give me your information. I will alert you as soon as the book is ready. I'm working really hard to compile my 18 years of experience of studying relationships and my 30 years of business experience to help get this together in a way that makes sense, that you can build your relationship, prepare yourself for a relationship, interview the candidates for your marriage, and then successfully run a business household that allows your relationship to succeed in a way that it never would without this framework. Hope you're enjoying.
Hold on, I gotta pull us all the way back. Our first question in this session was about you had started it and opened it up with did you say you don't want to get married? Because of this experience. Have you dated someone since this guy?
I have, yeah. It wasn't because of my past relationship. I think it's more being like a 21-year-old female. I sort of sit there and I want to plan my future. I sit there and I'm saying to mum and dad, oh, like, I'd love to get engaged at like 25, 26. And, you know, time flies. Like, I've finished a uni degree in 3 years. Like, from what I knew, I'm still back in high school. And I think that's what's scary, is because every man that I know is still so immature. And if I'm sitting here trying to like plan my future and think about my future and marriage, I don't want marriage with the type of guys I'm surrounded with. And it's so hard as well, because I was telling Jason, like, I look at my mum and my dad and I'm so inspired to have something that like what they have. I want a partner like how my dad treats my mom. And I compare it with guys who are 21, 22, 23. And it is just so lacking in the fact that I would never wish to have any of them as a husband. And so I think that's why it's so hard for me to sit there and want marriage, because there's just I feel like there's no man out there at the moment who would be like husband worthy.
So yeah, I just wanted to get clear. So you do want to get married and you are excited about it, but you just feel like it's like this thing that's so far away because like the type of guys that you find yourself around.
Yeah.
It's like an environment problem.
Yeah.
Like all the guys in the proximity of you, you're just like, there ain't no way.
Yeah. Like it seems like it's not a reality, even though I do want it to be. I do want to have kids. I do want to get married. I do want to like live old with someone. I want to have that relationship. But like when you look at it in a reality and you look at it in this day and age, it's sort of like it seems like that's the fairy tale that you see, and you don't see it as often anymore. And especially like kids, the divorce rate is so high now, and it's just, I honestly think everyone sees it as a fairy tale and no one's taking it seriously anymore. And it's really like demanding on kids just like not getting married even. Like I feel like you don't even learn basic relationships in school. Like no one has any idea what it means to like commit to a person. And as a 21-year-old girl, you would think that the 22, 23, 24-year-old males would be mature enough to, want to settle down, but they're not. They are honestly probably the worst men I've seen. Like I think I've got younger brothers, 18 and 17. And I think, that's like, they're immature, right? They're still in school. They still have their friendly little like hangouts and stuff. And so sitting between the 18 and 17, being 21, and then looking at an above age group, it's so similar. There is not any different qualities. There is nothing. They're literally the same exact men. And it's crazy because it's such a big age gap that you would think that by 23, 24, they'd be worried about their future. They'd be worried about finding a girl that they want like a family with and want to have that family aspect, but you just can't find it, especially when you're out. The guys will just catcall you, and it just goes back towards like dealing with a 17 and 18-year-old guy. And it's a big shock, and I don't think people can see that similarity. You know, girls sit there and they'll be like, oh, he's 24, like he's so much older. But it's like, no, just because they're older, they have the same exact mindset as an 18 and 17-year-old. And you don't see that, unfortunately, until you date them, and then you get treated the way you get treated. And then that's what pushes everything back. And then, yeah, no one wants to get married, because if a 3 to 4-year-old guy, like year older than you guy, can't even hold any sort of like masculine qualities and show you maybe what it would be like to have a long life partner, it's like, how are you going to get married? They have the exact same mindset as a 17 and 18-year-old, like my brothers. I feel like sometimes I'm talking to my brothers and I'm going out on a date with my brothers. That's honestly how it feels. That's why I feel like it's so hard to put marriage into reality, because I just don't see it with the type of men that are in today's society.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Thanks for giving me the context and the clarity on that. Have you been there where
Yes.
they live?
Mhm.
Did you get to witness like any of this like catcalling? Obviously, you're not like a good-looking female going to the grocery store.
I mean, I know I'm a very attractive man to myself, and I'm confident, but no, I don't get catcalled the way that would. But I have noticed in other cultures, I notice it here too. I mean, men are pornography, and the way that men talk about women has truly objectified them to the point that men don't often treat women the way that they should. Women are a wonderful, beautiful creature that we should honor and cherish. And it's not about objectifying them and saying, oh, you're just beautiful, so therefore you should be something that I chase down, and I'm a caveman and I'm going to grab you by your hair and drag you back to my cave. I think that mentality and a lot of toxic masculinity that's in society that says this is how you should treat a woman is predominant. I think some cultural views of machismo and the masculinity is encouraged and is perpetuated based on immature men telling other men how to be a man. And you know that's one of my pet peeves, that we need to make better men in this world, because fathers have done a bad job in being able to be present in the home and speaking life into their sons in a way that tells them this is what a man truly is. So the fact that there are less men that know what it's like to actually be in a position to offer something to a woman. And we talk about being, I'm only half a man and I'm trying to give you all of me, is often what we're trying to bring to the table. And there should be no settlement for that. And that's really important in the book when I'm talking about when you're dating, that you're interviewing this person to make sure that they have all the qualities that I want for the job that I'm hiring. And dating should be the interview for, are you the person that can meet the job that I want when we're married? And what was one of the homework assignments that I gave you that you have to do?
So Jason basically told me to write out like how you would a job description, but like a list for if a guy was to approach me, and I would go through the list, and if he like misses out on one of them, it's a no. And I did start writing it. We had about 3. So my top one was obviously age, because Jason was telling me like a man doesn't fully mature till about 24, 25. So
For me, it was like 27.
That's
Yeah.
an average.
average. So obviously I was aiming for at least 23 or over. I'm not doing anything younger, not even my age, completely immature still. So opting for 23, 24 and over. If you're younger than that, I'm sorry, it's a no. The next one was the intention of dating. Now, most guys obviously don't intend to date to then marry that girl, which I find that a really big thing. Like when I'm dating someone, I'm dating you to hopefully then turn that into like a lifelong commitment. Yes, it may not work, but when I'm dating you, I'm looking for those qualities that, yeah, you will have in a future husband. And majority of guys, they don't look at it like that. They look at it as just like another companionship that you do everything with, you have a really good friendship with, you know, you do what you want with them and then they're done and on to the next. And I think it's so important that girls look at it like they are dating to marry, so that yes, they can pick up red flags. They can look at certain qualities that they like. And this is sort of like what writing a list is about. You know, do you want this guy to be your husband? Do you want an immature man to be your husband? Like, no. So yeah, you should have a list. You should be categorizing the type of guy you want to date. Like, you should not be settling for someone lower than your standard. And yes, it sounds really selfish, but you need to put yourself forward. You need to have that self-worth to say, no, I'm not going to settle for something that I don't want. Yeah, they may not have 2 out of the things that I've written, but those 2 factors can completely like wreck or determine or change the whole relationship. Like, it could balance it out maybe, or it can just completely shut it down, and then you're back to square one. You're back to bringing your self-worth back up. You're back to trying to have to put yourself out there and meet other guys, which would be harder. So yeah, we've started a little list, and hopefully my list will be complete, and the next guy that comes up to me, he has to check all my boxes. So I honestly think it's a really good strategy to use. Yes, girls may think it's a bit demanding, but like Jason said, you shouldn't be lowering yourself. Like, you know your self-worth. You shouldn't let a man put you down just for you to be with them. You should be with someone that appreciates you and respects your list and your criteria. And yeah, if they have that list, then they're worthy of being with you. They're worthy of showing you all of the criteria that they have, and they're worthy of treating you the way you want to be treated.
I think worthy is a good word, but it's just like Jason, I think has used the word like, or maybe not, I don't remember, but just non-negotiable. Like, there's just non-negotiables, because it's like, it's not if, it's when that thing becomes a problem, right? And ironically, I got married late last year. Jason married me and my wife, Ariana. And what's funny is you took me back in time, I'm not even kidding, like 7 years. So I had forgot about this. I listened to this book about dating, and this is before I met my wife. And she was the girl I met after, when I was in the dating phase. She was the girl I met right after I made my list. I'm not even lying. And if you read that list I made in my head, I was running back in my hard drive in my head. I was like, wait, literally. And I remember, like, when I met her, I was like, holy crap, like, this woman checks every single box, like, down to, like, I like racing dirt bikes on the weekend. I just got back into it after not doing it for like 10 years. And like, she was at like the track with her dad and her brother every single weekend, supporting her brother racing. And like, just ironically, like, that was the next girl I met, and then all these other things. And like, we have this like harmonious life thanks to a lot of help with Jason's knowledge and combined with everything else. But like, that list is like such a real thing, because life is what you focus on. And like, it just makes it so clear. It's like, you have this like 20/20 viewpoint, and like, you'll start to notice like little things or things that they say, you'll be like, oh, that checks that box. Or like, you'll like, maybe would not have approached or tied a longer conversation with a guy that you met at the grocery store, or like, maybe at your job or whatever, but they said something that was like tailored to your list, and you're like, hey, tell me a little bit more about you, you know what I mean? And you'll just end up, you're just so much more clear, you're sharper. Like, I'm excited for you in that. Like, I lived that, and we've never even talked about that.
And it is my non-negotiable list. And when we talk about it, that is your non-negotiables. And be as particular and descriptive as you want. And when I made my list, it was the girl must already be working out in the gym. Because I worked out 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I'd meet a girl and they're like, hey, I want to go work out with you. I'm like, awesome. So we get to the gym, 15 minutes in, they're like, are we done? I'm like, done. I haven't even finished warming up yet. I'm like, we haven't even hit the workout. And when I met Angel, she was already a gym rat.
She was going to the gym, and it was one of those that I didn't want to have to explain because people liked the results because my body was really nice. But that takes a lot of work to get there. So
More than 15 minutes.
it's definitely more than 15 minutes. You could maybe tone your finger in a 15-minute workout, but it's that small quality. And one of the greatest gifts to Angel and I's marriage is she's been my best workout partner. For years and years, we would go to the gym, and our connection time that we would just talk about nothing and everything was the time that we were working out together in the gym. And people are like, well, you're too particular. Yeah, I am too particular because you know what? I'm not going to settle. I'm going to have, and Angel and I are in the 17% that are happily married. And it's the same as working out. Good relationships take a lot of work. Most people want to have a nice body, but they don't want to eat the right food. They don't want to work out the hours that it takes, and they don't want to make sure they're getting the sleep. Relationships are the exact same thing. You get out of them what you put into them. Relationships just don't happen. Be particular. I don't take a job that I'm like, wow, I don't want to do 95% of what they're asking me to do. But dating too, I worked at a fast food joint for one shift. I went in, I took the shift, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be back tomorrow. It's okay. And they're like, that's how we need to approach dating. You're at dinner and you're like, okay, that's a quality that I don't like. Cool, we're good. You'll split the check with them. Back when I was dating, I picked up the check, and I'm like, part of the way in the date, I'd be there like 5 minutes. I'm like, can I just pay for the meal and leave? I'm like, no, that's kind of rude, but so we're sitting there and wasting both of our times. But it's okay to be that particular. It's not even a condemnation of that person. They're a perfect person for somebody else. Let them find their somebody else. And that's okay because there are no soulmates. There are no, oh my God, there's only one perfect person in this world for me. If you have that list, I've hired thousands of people through my career, and I've met a lot that, yeah, they're great for this list. And the ones that I held to my list when I hired for the jobs that I did were some of the best employees I ever had. And I was so glad I didn't pick the other ones. And I'll tell you one funny story. When we were doing an interview, my last question that I would ask people is, why are you the right person for this job? And I had one girl respond, because I'm awesome. In the interview panel, we died laughing. And she's like, and I ended up hiring her because I really liked the answer. I liked her confidence. I'm like, all right, that's what I'm looking for. And I was talking to her after we hired her. I'm like, you know what? I said, you know, you have this job because you answered that question. She goes, I was so nervous to say it. She goes, but I figured you guys were cool enough that you would appreciate it. But that was one of the coolest responses I ever got to that question. And so I want you, when you're dating, I want that person, when you ask them, why are you the right person for me? Their answer is because I'm awesome, and you concur. And you laugh when they say it because you're like, you know what? I think that's the right answer to this question.
I wanted to pick up on the subject of where you're going to school, and you aren't in school anymore. You got your degree, you're done.
Yep.
Do you live close to that school still?
It's about 15, 20 minutes, yeah.
Is it a party school?
No.
Really?
So, yeah, we don't really have party schools or like any sorority or anything like how you would in America. There was obviously, like, going back to the whole brother-sister school, one of the private boys' school, they would have like a little school disco, and every year you'd have to like apply and say why you should be allowed to go and join them at the disco. And that's sort of like what like integrated us, and they wanted to obviously connect us with like boys since we didn't really have any boys at our school. So that was probably like the only sort of party type of vibe we got, was like a little school disco, and there was all these dress codes and only like 10 girls in your year could go and stuff. Yeah.
Are most things in Australia, like, are a lot of schools boy and girl schools, or is that just, it's because here it's not a common thing at all. Usually it's intermingled. What is it in Australia?
In every area, there is sort of usually you can find like an all-girls school, an all-boys school, as well as like a co-ed school, which is like a mixed school.
Is it 50-50? Like, what's the ratio of co-ed versus like?
I would say it's 50-50, but they're now starting to, like, my school and the boys' school has now combined. So a lot of the single-sex schools are getting like turned into co-ed. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's like a bias type of thing, you know, with all of the genders and everything going on. I don't think they're allowed to like sort of separate boys and girls. So I think a lot of the schools that you would have seen single-sexed are now co-ed. There's probably only about 3 schools I can think of, girls' schools that are still standing single-sex, and maybe about, 3 boys' schools as well. The rest have combined together.
I think a big thing for me when I was asking about the school and all that is proximity. And ironically, I met my wife online, so the proximity thing didn't even really matter because she lived 45 minutes north in a totally different part of town that I would have never hung out in. So, and that's what Angel and your mom down below got me on the subject of talking about right now about online dating. But I was thinking about the proximity thing. Like, I can understand how frustrated you are, and I can see by what you're saying how frustrated you've been. Just like you're dealing with guys that are acting like your little brothers, and you're just like, really? So I was curious, like, what do you feel like you're gonna do now to put yourself in proximity of the right, type of person? Like, what would they be doing? Where do they hang out? Like, what do they like to do?
Yeah.
Have those all been thoughts that you've had and you're like processing or been taking action on, or like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So usually the typical way you meet a guy is like if you're out, out any night. The city is a very like populated area for young people to go. It's where all of our like nightclubs are. And obviously the age of 18 is when you're allowed to drink alcohol and go into those certain venues. So I know here is 21, but there it is 18. So yeah, you do get obviously all the little immature 18-year-olds in the club. I think as a 21-year-old and above, they're sort of not really into clubs. Like you do see a few handful for birthday parties and stuff. They would get like a little VIP booth and have a little birthday party in there, but it's more bars now. So there's a few populated bars in the city that if you do want to meet guys, people obviously recommend you go to like a bar because hopefully you'll get the older, more mature guys wanting to sit and have a conversation at a bar rather than being in the middle of a dance floor drunk in a nightclub. Personally, even when I turned 18, I probably have only been out 3 times to a nightclub and I'm 21, and that's like unheard of. You know, when you're 18, you're meant to be going out every weekend and experiencing every single nightclub you can. The environment is just so poor. It is the worst thing ever. I don't know why kids want to be up in a nightclub. I think for me, especially now that I am finished my nursing degree, I'm hoping to, the hospital I'm working at is at about 45 minutes away from home. So it's like the eastern suburbs. I'm not sure if you heard about it, like Bondi Beach, like Coogee, around that area is where I'll be working. And it's a different popularity there. Like you get a lot of like backpackers, a lot of Spanish, a lot of like ethnic people who have like moved and who are just like doing like maybe a homestay or something there. So I am hoping that, you know, now that I'm in a career, I may meet a few more mature men. You know, you would think as a nurse and having a degree behind their back that they would be looking for future possibilities. You know, yeah, they may want to go out to a bar or a nightclub, but it wouldn't be as common as what guys in my area and guys who I went to school with, like majority of the guys I went to school with are still in their party age. And I think, yes, having a degree doesn't really make a big difference, but I personally feel like a guy that does have a degree or does have a stable job, it does change that mindset of, yeah, I can't be going out to a nightclub every single weekend. You know, I've got work the next day. I need to put money aside. I'm working hard to sort out my future. And I feel like that's the type of guys you want to surround yourself with. And I'm hoping that I will be able to meet those type of guys. You know, will be in a similar profession with them. in the hospital, you get all different types. You'll get doctors, physios, OTs, speech path, everything. And I'm hoping that because those guys have that backbone of like working hard to get where they are, because it is very hard to secure jobs in hospitals. There is such a big demand for those jobs, but it is still very hard at the same time. So you would hope that with that backbone of going through university, doing all your exams, getting to where that they are now, they are able to appreciate that and look at life a bit more like futuristic rather than go back and think, oh, I want to go to a nightclub every weekend. Yeah.
Going back to your relationship, if you were to talk to a girl who was in elementary school and around that younger age, what would you say to them to help them avoid the type of relationship you ended up in?
I would definitely say to just focus on themselves and their future. That is like the number one thing, where you are in your own mind, like mentally. That is such a big and important thing. If you mentally can't look at yourself in a mirror and think that you're beautiful, you're not ready for a relationship. Like you hear people say that they can't, like you can't love someone if you don't love yourself. And I believe that that is such a big thing, because if you do get into a relationship without that self-love, that guy will tear you down if he is not the right guy. And it will make it so much harder for a younger girl that has so many other things going on in their life, like finishing school, going through school, trying to get a future career out of whatever they want to do, body imaging, social media, like having that all around you, plus a broken self-love, it's going to be so hard for them to build that, like dig themselves out of that hole. So definitely like just focus on yourself. Even friendships, like friendships is such a big thing. Have no friends from my high school. You know, you sit there and you make most of your younger childhood decisions based around your friends. I'd want to do the same subjects as my friends just to be in the same class. And like, look at me now, I don't talk to anyone from school. And you think back to like the days where I would purposely just choose a subject just so I could sit with my friend and talk to her in school. And it's like, you shouldn't put yourself in such a disadvantage for friends or for a guy. You shouldn't be doing anything but doing it for yourself. I think just looking at yourself and your future, obviously family as well is such a big thing. And I think, yeah, like tunnel vision on just yourself.
And speaking of family, what could one of your family members have said to you that would have helped you to get out of the relationship that you were in?
Look, they did obviously try and help. You know, my mum would always tell me, you know, he's not the right guy for you and blah, blah, blah. And I hid like my relationship. I never told my parents what was going on. I had a really bad relationship with my parents just to keep this guy around. So I think as a family member, you know, if you can see your child distancing themselves, like, yes, they're becoming a teenager. Yes, they're going through all these emotions, bodies changing, and like mental capacities changing. I think as a family member, as much as they're pushing you away, you do not stop and sit back. You keep asking them those questions. You keep asking them about who's in their life. You keep monitoring, like even social media is such a big thing as well. And I think to be a young child in a toxic relationship with tunnel vision for a specific guy like that, they will disregard anything their parents say. And I know because that's what I did. I didn't listen to my brothers, my sister, my parents, no one. I listened to no one but that guy. And I think it's so important as a parent that they just always keep in touch with their child's feelings. Yes, they may not get anything out, but if they can sort of like work away any sort of like communication, like any little bit of information, it can sort of just help them redirect them in a way which, yes, the child may not want to. But I think as well, like if they can bring up any sort of situation that will compare their child's relationship versus what they should be getting. Like, for example, I know my parents would sit there and they would compare their own relationship and how my dad treated my mum to versus how this guy is treating me. It would put me into some sort of like realistic sense that, oh, you know, mum gets flowers every day. Dad will come and pick mum up when it's pouring down rain, you know, just like the little things. And I think that it's so important as a family member that you are finding ways to tap into those norms that they think is like normal, which is not. And I think if you can just steer them away from anything that has been created as a reality to them, I think it will help a lot.
When you were isolated and pulling away, what did that do, and kind of mindset and how you interacted with your family? What did that feel like?
It felt really lonely because obviously, like, I am such a family-oriented person. I have such a good relationship with my siblings. Like, I have one of my younger brothers. We're the two, it's like 4 kids, older sister, me, and then the 2 younger boys. And so me and the other middle boy, we are basically like twins that obviously are not twins, but same personality, same everything. And we have such a beautiful, strong connection. And it was such a shame to see that I had tarnished that for a guy. Like, I pushed him away because I knew that if he found out how this guy was treating me, I didn't want to have to choose between my brother or keeping the guy because I wanted to keep both. But yeah, it puts you in such a vulnerable mindset that it sort of like distorts your inner self because, like, for me, family always will come first. And to think that I wasn't putting my family first, I wasn't putting my brother first, and I was putting this guy who was treating me so poorly, it really like distorts your like inner like being. And I think as a human being, no one should have to go through that. And it plays like a really big role on like your mentality of who you are and who your parents have like raised you to be. And it just brings back everything like family morals as well.
That should be a red flag anytime that there's a choice between family. And unless there's a toxic relationship with the family, but in a healthy family relationship, when a boyfriend or girlfriend is saying it's pretty much me or them, that should be a huge red flag to say, hey, maybe there's something going on, and really exposing that and taking a pause and diving deeper. It may be just something you're sensing versus the reality, but in your case, it was truly a reality. And anytime that is a reality, that if I do bring my brother in and he sees how this person's treating me, bring your brother in and let him dance around. Let him say, hey, let me take this guy out and we'll have a coffee and determine, are you treating my sister in a manner that is acceptable to our family norms? And I tell people in premarital that, you know, parents will always say nobody's good enough for my child. Because we view our children as these just great human beings, that nobody will ever be able to love them the way we do. And in reality, they will never love them the way we do. But the love that somebody's going to give Brooke when she gets married is very different than the love I give her, because she is my little girl. And I used to tell her, and she's sitting over there, that I'd put a bubble wrap suit around her anytime so that she wouldn't be hurt. And I just want to carry her in a way that she'll never feel pain. But that's not the reality of relationship. There's always pain. I've hurt my daughter, not intentionally. We hurt those that we love, but not in a damaging way, just in a way that it's okay to be vulnerable. You have to be able to be hurt. To be able in a position where you can actually truly be loved, you have to allow yourself in that. But anytime that it's unhealthy hurt is definitely a time to take a pause and reflect. Is this a good relationship? Am I being myself? If you're not allowed to be yourself,
don't be in the relationship. Well, Chanel, I thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me talk into you, and I hope and look forward to hearing how your non-negotiable list, your interview phase of saying, do these boys have any potential in being the man that is qualified to be the husband that I desire, that's going to give me the life in the marriage that I want, so that I can live a life that I can give away to others so that they're able to have the relationships that they want. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
One last thing. Do
Yeah.
you have something that you'd want to say to yourself to go back and look at? Think 10 years from now, you're married, you have a kid or two. There's something you'd want to say to yourself?
I think I would just be very proud, like, to come and to push through those like society norms, and actually thank Jason and everyone who has like supported me. And yeah, in 10 years, if I am married, I'm very thankful for just everyone and all of the relationship advice. And obviously that list would have worked out the way it's wanted. So hopefully in 10 years' time, I can look back at this and think that this was an experience in itself as well. And going through such hardships like this does make you a stronger person, and it does lead and will lead to better outcomes as well. And hopefully younger girls who do experience the same things can still see that future and turn that fairy tale into reality. So, yeah.
Yeah, hardship doesn't define you. It just helps to create a launching pad to achieve what you truly want. So when you achieve it and you get it, you appreciate it much more than if you never had gone through something negative.